Hey, welcome. Wow, I look as crazy as the political atmosphere here in this country. Woo. I should have looked before I put on the video. Wow, what is happening? Oh my goodness. Oh, but I don't have a microphone. Okay. So, yeah, I was just saying I look about as crazy as the politics and the atmosphere and everything going on. And I guess it's just fitting. The cat has absolutely lost it. And Daniel singing in the background, but those are things that you guys are used to. Today is 500 days. 500 days since October 7, 2023. All over Israel, there are protests right now. I mean, the streets are lit up right now. There was a fast all day today from I don't know, maybe it was 500 minutes or something like that in recognition of or remembering the hostages and everything. But there is a lot of news. Like, it's not just 500 days and we're marking a rounded number. It's like the news that has come out in the last 2 hours is absolutely insane. And so anyway, I was going to do a live because of 500 days, but now it's like that plus. So anyway, I'm going to get right to it again. Like, if you have questions, please throw them in the comments and I'm going to try to get to them. I apparently don't see first of all, some of you aren't watching live and you put questions, and then sometimes I haven't gone back to Facebook and YouTube to check, and I'm sorry about that. But hopefully I eventually do. But I forget to open up Facebook. It's so ridiculous. And mind you, I don't even know how to use Instagram. So I'm not saying it's just social media. I kind of forget. Okay. So, I also want to answer Emily's questions. Emily, who is my sister, by the way, sent me a bunch of messages or sent me a really long message with a bunch of questions about what's happening and the exact count of hostages and everything. So anyway, okay, so let's get right to it. So right now the news is on. It just started, the nightly news, but I'm gonna go. Let me just start with the numbers, because right now there are still 73 Israeli hostages in Gaza. That is from an original 251 plus the two that were already in Gaza. I've mentioned them before, and I'm going to get to them. They're actually due to be out in the first stage. The first stage of the ceasefire negotiation between Israel and Hamas, we're coming to the end of that. And the big news tonight was that Hamas has said that it is going to release 4 bodies this week. So we knew from the beginning that the first round of this ceasefire included for Israel, in terms of the hostage release, that there would be 33 hostages released. And of them, of the 33 of those, there were going to be 8 of them are dead. And I think that I don't think Israel ever, or the negotiators ever got the names. If that's the case, it wasn't made public of who is who and who's alive, who's not. But even every week we're waiting till the day before the hostage release. We're waiting to find out who are the 3 that are going to be released. Now, many people have asked, what is the situation with why this hostage release of just our ceasefire agreement with just 33 Israeli hostages when there was over 100, and why what's going on, the slow trickle of aid into Gaza and stuff like that, and also the numbers of the hostages versus Palestinian prisoners. So I actually heard one of the Knesset members today, Eli Cohen, say that the reason they went ahead, that he's saying it, the reason Israel went ahead with this deal of 33 was just because it was so hard to actually negotiate anything, that it was like the easiest conclusion to come to. And by the way, it was like painstaking in terms of who are the Israeli hostages and who will be the Palestinian prisoners. And there was an agreed upon list for the first 33 Israelis, and then also for the Palestinians, there was like, that was what held up the negotiation. So imagine in phase 2, where there's still going to be 59 Israeli hostages. And, somebody asked, like, with all of the Palestinian prisoners that are getting released, isn't it, like, aren't they going to run out of prisoners? Well, actually, there were 6,000 before this started. There were an estimated 6,000 Palestinian prisoners in Israeli jails. And then also somebody asked, well, why doesn't Israel just release like the minor infractions, the ones with the not felonies and life sentences and with blood on their hands? And it's actually because this is a pre-negotiated list. Like, Hamas isn't going to agree to just get out all of the easy cases. Like, they want the tough cases. Like, it's a very tough negotiation. Like, you want this hostage, well, we want this prisoner. So that's what took so long to get that, to get to just phase 1, and phase 2 is going to be even more so. And then some other questions that some of you have had were like, why? What about Trump's ultimatum? Like, all the hostages out by Saturday. Well, I think in the end, maybe Trump was the only one who expected that to actually happen. Because even in Israel, the negotiators were like, yeah, no, well, like, let's just get the 3. And then even Trump in his statement said, after I made this ultimatum, Hamas, which wasn't going to, they weren't going to release any prisoners, they released 3. So I think it was, it was a tactic to like that for like, there was a little bit of a stall in the ceasefire, and it sparked the ceasefire. But what has happened is, with that statement, though it hasn't really made a difference with phase 1, it seems to be factoring into phase 2 of the ceasefire, which is being negotiated right now, which is like all the hostages at once. A lot of people are saying all 59 remaining hostages. And then, by the way, Emily wanted to know, like, who's alive, who's dead, or like how many. We don't know the numbers. There was an estimated, when it was 100 hostages, there was an estimated 1/3 are dead. So we don't know. We don't know how many. We don't know the exact number. But a lot of the returning hostages are bringing with them signs of life of others. Like, for instance, one, even right now, we heard of one, David Cuneo, who his mother said, we haven't heard from him since day 53, and we're on day 500. So they're starting to get there's signs of life of probably over a dozen hostages now that nobody heard of. There's one who I just met just a friend of mine who just met the wife of one of them. And it's just like, it's a small enough country that you run into people who, are directly connected to this. So, okay, so that's the numbers game. So like I said, there was, right now there's protests everywhere. Like, especially, I think there's always in Tel Aviv and Hostage Square, but there's also in front of the Prime Minister's house in Jerusalem. Huge protests right now going on. That the protest comes on the heels of a fast. So there was the Hostage Families Forum called for a 500, I think it was a 500-minute fast. I'm not going to do the math fast enough, no pun intended. It was like just during the day, but to mark that. And so one of the wife of a hostage who returned on Saturday, Sagi Dekel Chen, She said, we count in days and we're so obsessed with this 500 days. But she said, do you realize how many seconds? I forgot. It's like millions of seconds that have gone by. And she said the people who are in these tunnels are counting it in seconds. So the breaking news from tonight, from like just now, is that part of what's suddenly been come like into the negotiation right now is that Hamas will release 4 bodies on Thursday. Now we've all been waiting for this, and boy, am I interested to see how they're going to pull this off. If you have watched any of the hostage releases, you have seen the spectacle that they put on of the releases, with the stage and a different banner every time. I'm going to show you the banner from this past Saturday. And you see this, no migration except to Jerusalem. That was their banner for this week when they released the 3 hostages. And that's, first of all, no migration except to Jerusalem. Can you guess what that's in response to? It's a response to the Trump plan, of course. Anyway, it's just nope, we're not going to Jordan. We're not going to Egypt. We're going straight to Jerusalem, which is what we always intended. And you see there's the Dome of the Rock with the Palestinian flag. And do you see now, if you look at that, that's not a soldier or a Hamas leader just looking from the stage. That's part of the picture, and that is actually symbolic. This is supposed to be Sinwar, the leader of Hamas in Gaza that was killed, who was killed by Israel during the fighting a couple months ago. And this is how he looked, and the place where he looked in the last days. And how do we know? Because it was an Israeli drone that went into this emptied out building and saw, enemy combatant, shoot, fire, didn't know it was him. And ended up like these soldiers that didn't plan to, and it wasn't based on intelligence or anything. It was just they were tracking down somebody who was shooting at them, and lo and behold, it was the leader. But you see, it's written in Arabic, it's written in Hebrew, it's written in English. So it's a message to the Americans, it's a message to the Israelis, and it's a message also to their people that, we're not agreeing to Trump's plan of ethnic cleansing all of Gaza and getting rid of the Palestinians. No, we are, we're still intent on what we started, which was called Al-Aqsa Flood, which was we're on our way to Jerusalem, started on October 7th. So anyway, so where was I at? Okay, so they have been releasing 3 at a time, 3 hostages, but we know that of the 33, that 8 are not alive, and everybody's on the edge of their seats waiting. Now, if I have said in the past mistakenly that all the women and children are out, of course, we're still waiting for the Bibas family. We're waiting for the mom and her 2 kids. Now, months ago, before the first round of of the first hostage releases back in November 2023, they should have been the first ones out. I mean, Kfir Bibas was the youngest person, the youngest hostage taken. He was 9 months old at the time. But even back then, they said one of the terror groups, I don't know if it was Hamas or Islamic Jihad, said that they were dead. So we had but there was no confirmation. And now the father, who was kidnapped separately and held separately, he's been released. And he said he also doesn't have conclusive information, but everybody has very heavy suspicion that they, yes, are dead. But everybody will be holding out hope until we see the redheads, the Gingies, come out. So, of course, 2 little kids. So anyway, oh, look at this right here. Here's the protest. I just missed it. It said President Trump. Darn. I wanted to say, I've been saying that that President Trump is getting like all of the credit. Like even hostages that have been released are directly addressing him and thanking him in videos and everything, like to say that thanks to you that we've gotten out, and he's getting a lot of credit for he's getting the credit for this. Like Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, is not getting the credit, and Biden is not getting the credit. And I mean, the truth is, it all really started picking up the pace, like in the negotiations, right after the election. And when Trump made quite a few ultimatums, which he is still doing, but what he said, if the hostages are not released by my inauguration, then there will be all hell to pay. And he's basically continued more or less with this threat. So on the political side, we had the new Secretary of State, the U.S. Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, landed in Israel on Saturday night and met with a lot of Israeli officials and, toured some of the areas here. By the way, he's left just now and he's in Saudi Arabia right now, which is also really telling, that the two countries that he is visiting on this trip. And then also, I think, will continue to the United Arab Emirates. Which was, I think, the first country to be part of the Abraham Accords. And that's the normalization agreement with Israel. It's very significant because Saudi Arabia is not part of that, but has constantly been rumored to be part of that. So it looks like there's like some kind of threads going on with that. Let me see. There's here's Netanyahu's statement after having met with Rubio. He said, President Trump and I are working in full cooperation and coordination. I cannot go into details, but we have a joint strategy, including when and how the gates of hell will open if all of our hostages, all of them, are not released and do not come back home. Then he says, in any case, we are committed together to common objectives, not just freeing the hostages, eliminating Hamas, and of course, ensuring that Gaza never again constitutes a threat to Israel, in addition to the president's plan, which says there will be a completely different Gaza. And this is Netanyahu talking. He says, to this, we are committed. For this, we are working in a joint strategy with the president of the United States. Now, this is just going back to the Trump plan, and you need to use the word plan very loosely. We don't know that there's any plan. This was a Trump statement during a press conference with Netanyahu there in Washington, like a week, 2 weeks ago. And he just said it. And it's the first time most people heard it. And it was that the Gazans can leave. They should go to, Egypt or Jordan, and we're going to rebuild Gaza. Now, he said, and it's not even clear if he said they should leave while we're rebuilding, and then we'll have beautiful houses for them when we get back, and there will be Mar-a-Lago on the Med and Club Med on the Med, and I don't know, of course, everybody heard that plan, reacted very differently. The Palestinians are like, yeah, what about us? Like, what do we do? Like, what do, like, it's our decision to leave or not. The Israelis, some of them were just like, oh, great. Yeah, go, because we wanted to build settlements there anyway. Other Israelis are like, oh my God, we're participating in another ethnic cleansing or genocide. Other Israelis are like, oh wow, Trump has great ideas and maybe we should listen and maybe he'll solve the problem for us. I mean, and then you've got, of course, a lot of Arab states have condemned it. Egypt is like, yeah, not even happening. Let's put more troops on the border. And the King of Jordan was the next foreign leader to meet with Trump, like right after Netanyahu. And he agreed to take sick children from Gaza who need to be hospitalized. And but I don't think he fully agreed to the plan, although he sounded pretty amenable to it while he was sitting in the White House. But then, it doesn't sound like it from his comments afterwards. Now, the Arab nations are scrambling to put together their own plan right now because and I just read this one. I know that Saudi Arabia was hosting like strategic meeting to talk about let's make our own plan. And now Azmi Bishara, who is not in Israel anymore, long story, uh, he said that the Arabs better come up with their own plan. He said that initiating. Let me get this exactly. This is from the New Arab, where he said that he stressed the necessity of an urgent and comprehensive Arab plan for reconstruction and relief in the Gaza Strip to support the resilience and steadfastness of his residents. And he said that this is the only practical response to Trump and his administration's ideas of displacing the Palestinian people from Gaza. So the Arab nations are scrambling right now to be able to do that, so that Trump doesn't, so that Israel doesn't, so that and maybe that is even actually, now I'm saying it, maybe that's what Trump wanted, was to get people thinking. Now, why, there's also some people trying to justify what Trump said as like, well, Gaza is unlivable. And that brings me to another question. Which somebody had, which was, how are Gazans still living in Gaza? Because all the pictures that we see are apocalyptic and it's unlivable, it's uninhabitable. And yes, large swaths of Gaza are unlivable, like the entire north, several neighborhoods in the north, I don't remember the towns in the north that on the border with Israel, northern Gaza, are leveled. They are absolutely leveled. There's not like one building standing. So why people went home, I don't know, because there was no home to go to. Also, people who had buildings left, they didn't have water. They don't have heat. It's winter. We're supposed to get possibly snow this weekend here, and it's cold. It's been really cold. No clean water, no running water. They're trying to, part of the negotiation, and why Hamas is now apparently saying like we'll release some bodies, sounds so dismal, doesn't it? On Thursday, and like kind of like speed up the whole hostage release deal, is so because Israel's been holding back the caravans. Like, people need a place to live. There's not enough tents in Gaza. There's not enough caravans in Gaza. There's not enough food. There's not enough. They can't. They can't go on like this. There needs to be a lot more practical assistance for these people. So some people were saying, oh, maybe the Trump, what do you call it, plan was to get them out so that they can rebuild and they can go back, because you can't actually live there anyway. So he was being nice, and he was saying, hey, go on to Egypt, stay there, at least it's warmer, stay there for a couple of years, and when it's rebuilt, you can come back. But most Palestinians will not do that. 1948 and all, they probably won't do that. Even like Israeli Arabs who live in the north, in this town in the north, they were like a couple centimeters from being evacuated because of Lebanon. I mean, you can see into Lebanon from there. I went up there during the war, and I saw smoke rising like right in the hill, right in front of me. And so that's Lebanon. But they were like, like 1/4 of a centimeter from the evacuation line. And I asked them, I'm like, but wouldn't you want to demand to be evacuated? I mean, listen to this, you're watching this all day long, whatever. And they were like, no, even if they told us to evacuate, we wouldn't leave. And I'm like, really? And they go, leaving leaving our land has never been good for the Arabs. And so we're not leaving. And I was like, oh gosh, okay. So they would rather hold their ground there. So anyway, very interesting perspectives all around. Let me see. What else? Okay. So they're a meeting. I don't know if this has been updated. Let's see. Oh wow, a hostage just put out the hostage that just came out of Gaza. I can't rewind it. Just put out a video. I just got it on my phone too. Yeah, Air Horn, who just came out of Gaza, he just put out a video saying, I'll tell you what he said. He was released after 498 days. He said, I was there. I was in Hamas's tunnels. I experienced it firsthand. And I'm telling you, the hostages don't have time. We don't have time. They must be brought back now. Everyone asked me, what do you need? And I answered them, I need only one thing. Bring back my brother. His brother was still there. Bring back my brother and all the hostages. So one of the things that I was just about to say is like this, they're talking about like releasing all the living hostages, maybe even Saturday, like 4 of the bodies this week, all the remaining living hostages on Saturday, and then 4 more of the bodies for phase 1. And then phase 1 would be complete sometime next week. There's also the other 2 hostages that I have mentioned that are not from October 7th. The Israelis, one, both on their own individually, not connected to each other, stumbled into Gaza. I think it's an issue of more mental illness than it was like any other thing. Like they got themselves into Gaza and then they were held captive and that was it. So they are apparently part of this deal and I don't know their status. So, all right. We talked about the plan, not plan. We talked about the possible release this Thursday. And I don't think I finished my thought when I was saying, like, if you've been watching every week, Hamas puts on a spectacle. And I showed you, like, the banner. They have a new banner every week for the hostage release. And they have new goodie bags. Oh, my gosh. Some of the goodie bags, they gave one of the hostages earrings to give his wife. They gave another one of hostages an hourglass to give to one of the mothers of a hostage who's a very active protester. Like she's known here in Israel, like by face, by name now, because she's like leading the protest charge and she's like totally against like the government and like she's constantly at the Knesset or trying to get into the Knesset and pound tables and say like do something now. So she's become like a real figurehead of this movement. And so Hamas sent a message to her sons in Gaza, and they sent a message like through one of the hostages now, an hourglass, like time is running out. And it was supposed to be for her son. I mean, that's pretty demented. They get goodie bags every time they leave. And there was one somebody interviewed on some news show who said that Hamas and their acts of kindness for the hostages. And she said, well, they give them goodie bags. And it's like, could you imagine getting a goodie bag from your captors for 500 days? I mean, anyway. Hey, Daniel. How you doing? Yeah? What? He went to play basketball. Luki's on his annual trip. He's camping. With his class. They went camping. He was gone last night too. Yeah. Why is he not back? Tomorrow he'll be back. Okay. So the negotiations. Okay. So let me wrap it up with this because I think we did the politics, right? We Gaza. I mean, there's much more to be said about Gaza. Honestly, I can't find numbers. This really bothers me. I can't find numbers. If you find them, please send them to me of the destruction, like how many are homeless, how many are displaced, how much land, how many buildings, percentage stuff. And that, honestly, like, I'm going through a lot of different sites and I cannot find a direct number, which I don't know why. Either I'm not researching it well, or at some point I could stop questioning myself and be like, all right, why is this not being reported well out there? Somebody's got to be reporting it. And I can't find the numbers. So we covered that. And I was going to ask, I know there was something else I was going to say, but I was going to tell it, like, if you watch the releases every week and then you see the stage and you see the production of the living hostages, the question is, what are they going to do for the coffins? Is it going to be televised? Is it going to be live streamed by Al Jazeera? Is it going to be picked up by the Israeli channels? Are we going to know who in advance? Is it going to have to be kept quiet so that the families can be notified in advance? Like, there's just a lot of sensitive questions related to this. Like, I'm sure it's going to be different. It's got to be different. At least I know from the Israeli side, it'll be different because they would have to notify the loved ones, family members, and will they know, or will they only get the coffins and then be able to tell? So I don't know. But we'll be watching on Thursday to see what happens. And if in fact this goes through, I know what I was going to say. By the way, Daniel just found a whistle in his bag. The other thing I was going to say was Trump's ultimatum that hasn't necessarily happened. It didn't happen on Saturday. It didn't happen noon on Saturday like everybody was waiting, especially like in America, because you guys were left hanging with this like Trump statement and then nobody followed up on it in the media, and you're in the local media, but here it was like minute by minute. So we were like, we knew it wasn't going to happen. And I had people messaging me like, are they all being released today? And I'm like, no, like nobody expects that. Nobody woke up on Saturday expecting that. But what it did do was it is going to push them to do that for phase 2. Like, now that that's on the table, it wasn't going to happen for phase 1. Phase 1's going to go forward as planned. I'm pretty sure that is going to be for phase 2. And that's on the table for phase 2. So we're going to see what happens with that, how that factors into the negotiating, which they're doing right now for phase 2. And I will leave you on one more note. Lebanon, I think that's also continuing the ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon. And Israel is actually like slowly working its way out of southern Lebanon. But today I heard a lot of jets, and I don't know what that was about. They did, Israel said, I think, did Israel say, or did Israel get accused of taking out a Hamas member in Lebanon? And will that disrupt the ceasefire? I don't know. Anyway, that's all the news. It's not all the news. That's all the news I'm going to give you. There's so much more, but let's go absorb it and carry on. Anyway, send me your questions, and I'll try to get to them in the next one. But I appreciate you tuning in. Thank you so much. If you got anything out of this, you can subscribe to the channel. That'd be awesome. Thank you. And I will see you next time.